How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today we've got a new one for you. This one's going to be on the modern era tanks versus the old era tanks. Which ones you're going to be playing when the new game mode drops at the end of the month. Now, personally, I think I'm going to go with the modern era tanks for a little bit. I'm going to try them out, get some content for you guys, and we're going to test them out. But having looked through some of the comments of the previous video that I did on this channel, I'm going to give you some insight into what I believe it will be like when you jump in to the game on this new game mode. Now, also, we will be talking about the old tanks, what I feel like the development is going to lead to with regards to those, and obviously the development of these modern tanks. So first things first, when will these modern tanks actually be arriving in the game? They'll be in the game by the end of the month, according to Wargaming's recent news article on the website. As regards to some developments in the old tech tree, we're yet to be able to get any. They're not giving us very much at all, to be honest with you, regarding the old World War II stuff. There's been very little updates as to what update they're actually going to do to that, and whether we'll see the Italian tanks released at the same time as this brand new update, we're yet unknown. Modern tanks, when they get released, what's going to be exciting about them? Well, obviously they've got various different upgrades with regards to the consumables, with regards to probably the equipment that you'll be able to use on them. We don't know exactly how they're going to work. Are you going to have to grind from a tier 1 to like a tier 4 in terms of like a tech tree, or is it going to be a mode where you just get given all of the tanks and you have to equip them yourself, or is it going to be very similar to the previous game? Now, obviously, we don't know that entirely, and it's exciting kind of to see what this whole new game mode... I say it's a new game mode, but to be honest with you, it's going to act like a new game, like a separate game within the World of Tanks console kind of games, I guess. So when they drop in-game, obviously, you'll be able to pick yourself up whichever tank you want to, I guess. There'll probably be multiple nations between like the French, UK. There might even be some additional nations like Israel. They've got a few tanks on armoured warfare from that nation. You might be able to pick up various different ones, different to that of the current nations in game regarding the old tanks. Once you've earned that modern tank or purchased it from whichever corner of the game that you're going to be playing it from, probably the modern tank tech tree that's currently in the game and just classified. Once you've picked up your modern tank, obviously you can equip it probably with the same system and loadout system that we currently have in game. I believe there'll be more consumables than what they've advertised. Obviously, they've announced that there will be a smoke screen, so you can pop that. It enables a smoke cloud, and obviously that is getting the addition of some camo factor onto your tank. I reckon that it will also be visually hard to see behind the smoke, and it will also mean that you can use that effectively if you're getting shot at it from multiple angles. You can use that to escape, or also to bait your enemies into thinking that you've escaped one flank but you've actually stayed put. So they'll think if you pop a smoke going one way that you'll probably be going in that direction in the first place, but now you've actually gone back on yourself and doubled back. Now, with regards to the playstyle, you'll obviously want to be using that when you feel threatened or when you're trying to make an aggressive push into an area which is an open kind of clearing area. Obviously, we've got the bigger maps, 1400 meters by 1400 meters. That's an extra 400 meters squared on the original map size, which is huge when you actually multiply them together. You're going to get a lot more map area in the game, and it should be really, really interesting to see how you can use those areas to use your mobility, which I expect the modern tanks will have increased mobility even on the main battle tanks. Now, on these modern tanks, you'll probably have various different classes, from light tanks, main battle tanks. You might even have in the form of tank destroyers, so ones with big alpha damage guns, but I very much doubt that you'll be seeing any self-propelled guns, because Wargaming have implemented that there will be no artillery. So if you're an artillery player on the standard game mode, you probably won't like this new game mode, since you're not going to be able to play the class that you enjoy. So remember, you might want to stick on the standard game mode. Additionally, as part of these consumables that they're adding in, you will also be able to get whole repair kits. So they're called like whole patch repair kits. That's basically going to be able to regen minor amounts of health over time. So what does that mean? Now, usually when you get hit on World of Tanks and you're actually penned, what will happen is your hit points reduce from, say, 1,000 down to 800 hit points. Now, usually that means that you will have lost those 200 hit points. There's no possible way for you to get those back except from going into another game in another tank. Now, with this new system, what you'll be able to do is minorly repair some of those hit points back over time. So I expect that once you've popped this consumable that may last a minute, it will restore a certain amount of hit points per second that will do a total amount over that course of that minute potentially. Now, that could be really huge in terms of someone who's an aggressive player. If you aggressively attack at the beginning of the game and you lose a lot of hit points, you can then leave that flank and go back and play a little bit more passively to recoup some of those hit points that you might have left. It means that some advanced players who have learnt the game and they're going to be able to take advantage of this, they're going to be able to use this to increase the longevity of their games and also increase the potential for them to carry the game in that situation. Now, this is all personally very exciting in terms of a whole new gameplay and a whole new gameplay style, but for me, the one thing holding back this modern tank game mode for me will be that true vision. I've really not liked it on the standard game mode. Obviously, we don't know what it's going to be like with this whole modern tanks and these bigger maps, and also maybe potentially having some different camo. You know, you've got the smoke screens and you're going to have that camo of bushes. Maybe they'll add in more bushes, which makes it harder for you to be able to see opponents in areas where they shouldn't be or where they should be. I know that previously on the maps that weren't developed for this true vision, it was very, very tough for opponents like on El Haluf. You know, people could be almost hit instantaneously when they crossed certain areas. The only thing that protected you was actually the range of your shells, so how far you could actually shoot your shell in terms of whether it was effective to just camp and snipe. So it's really a point that these kind of maps have to be that big in order to make that a point and a reason not to just sit at the back. So I'm hoping that that's what Wargaming have done, and that the actual render range, or the range that you can actually fire, is a lot lower than the size of the maps, because if you can actually hit someone from one corner of the map to the other corner, it's going to be a real problem. So I think we've covered pretty much everything in terms of the modern tanks and what's actually coming in with those, and given a little kind of hints and tips as to what you're going to be doing when you first log on to the game on the update release. I wanted to talk now about the impact of these. Is it going to draw players away from the standard old game mode? Probably. I think for the majority of players, they're going to be hopping on this brand new game mode, never before seen on World of Tanks. Will there be modern tanks? So this will be interesting for players on both PC, Blitz, and also console to jump on, have a go, and see what's what in terms of their favourite World of Tanks game. Now, I'm interested to see what this impact will be on the matchmaker. I think for the majority of the time you're going to be able to get into a game fairly quickly, because load times aren't that bad on the current kind of meta of the game. So I think it could be interesting, and I'm definitely excited to see what it's about. I know that yesterday's video was being very critical, but it is sometimes necessary to be critical. This video is kind of a bit more of a positive one, looking forward to the changes and what could actually be good from them. I know that obviously overall I'm feeling a little unhappy about the implementation of these modern tanks, because I would have liked to just see them in the same current game mode and then maybe them test out the true vision on these modern tanks rather than just implement it to begin with. But I can't have everything, and maybe, just maybe, Wargaming will actually pull it out the bag and make a really, really good change to the game. Now, as for the matchmaker on the older game, obviously when the game gets split in half, or, well, not necessarily split in half, because the majority of players will probably be playing the new mode, will mean that the older matchmaking is going to be a lot more difficult, and you're probably going to be ending up in a lot more +2, -2 matchmaking if they don't add in +1, -1 into the old mode. I would have liked to have seen instead them introduce a +1, -1 all of the time if they're going to be developing this modern era of tanks more and more over the next couple of months and the next year. It would be interesting to see how the old game fares in the long run, whether people will just take this modern tank game as the kind of main area of World of Tanks console, and that will be the go-to game if you want to play some modern tanks. You'll jump on your console instead of the PC version to have a go at those. Now, whether development will still continue on the old game, they have given us a little bit of a few things. So obviously they are continuing with development on the French wheeled light tanks, which will be arriving in the game eventually, but they've not given us a specific date like they have with the Italian heavy tanks that are the next line to come in to World of Tanks. I did do a video covering all of the Italian heavy tanks and what kind of playstyle you can expect, which should be linked at the end of this video, or you can just check it out on my channel by looking for the new tank coming into World of Tanks console. It should be titled, and obviously with the Italian flag in the thumbnail. Now, moving on, obviously we're talking about the old tanks and the matchmaker. I think overall you're going to have to wait a little bit, and the developments that are going to be coming to this are going to be fewer and far between, because I think when you split the game, obviously development is going to be split in half as well, unless they've brought in more people to actually develop the game itself, as with both of the game modes having 100% capacity of what it used to be. I doubt that that's happened, but I am hoping that in the future the development, it will be 50-50 and you'll actually get considerable updates on both sides, and that the test server, or like the new game mode, will actually be an area where they can test out features that could potentially come into the game. I don't think that the initial testing of this whole True Vision system should be the where they take their statistics from to say, look, 70% of players were playing the new game mode, which must mean that they favour the new mechanic of True Vision. That's obviously not true, because people are going to play the new content when it comes out, so I think that that is important to note too. But I think that that literally covers about everything I wanted to talk about in this video. It's kind of going over what sort of things you can expect when you come on to the game after the update drops. When more information gets released, I will talk about that, and I really wanted to kind of get your ideas as to which game mode you'd be playing when this drops, whether you'll still continue to play the World War II or whether you'll actually shift over to play the modern tanks. It'll also be nice to see, if you're a new player, whether you're actually playing the modern tanks or also the old tanks instead. It'll be good if you could actually check out the community tab on my channel and actually vote in the poll, where I'll have your guys' opinion on whether you're going to play modern or old vehicles in World of Tanks console when this drops. So I'll have a poll. Just click on whichever one that you think you'll be playing most when they drop in the game. Other than that, I hope you guys had a really good day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Don't forget to check out some of the content that's on screen right now, and make sure to subscribe for more content with World of Tanks console. Thank you, and goodbye.